you really think you understand the game? Women hide far more than they say. Most men are emotionally blind, trying to please, trying to figure them out, trying to guess. And that's the issue. The one who's guessing has already lost control. There's a hidden side to the female mind no one tells you about. Real weaknesses disguised as strength. And if you can't see them, you'll be led without even realizing it. You'll lose your power, your clarity, and even your identity. The truth is, female psychology is more strategic than emotional. What looks like confusion is often a sophisticated system of tests, masks, and subtle games. But relax, this isn't war. This is about intelligence. The man who masters these codes becomes rare. And today, rarity is the fastest path to desirability. Through the lens of Stoicism, you'll learn to see what most ignore, and that will give you an unfair advantage in any social dynamic. This video is a turning point. It's not about cheesy tactics or empty lines. It's about strategic vision, emotional wisdom, and masculine self-mastery. And if you watch until the end, you'll understand why some women give in without knowing why, and why others lose interest even when you do everything right. It all starts with the most silent emotional addiction in the female mind, and the mistake nearly every man makes while trying to be accepted. Get ready to open your eyes. Weakness number 1. The constant need for validation, silent emotional vulnerability. Most men don't realize it, but many women operate from a hidden need for constant validation. It's not a flaw, it's an emotional engine that drives choices, actions, and reactions. This hidden craving can come from likes on social media, glances in public, or even from how you react to her silence. The man who sees this and doesn't hand out validation for free stands out. He stops being predictable. He becomes the man she wants to understand but can't control. A common mistake men make is always trying to please. And when she senses that, she takes emotional control of the relationship. The secret here is masculine self-mastery, choosing not to react to tests she doesn't even realize she's running. A practical example: if she disappears for 2 days and you respond calmly on the third as if nothing happened, she feels something unexpected, silent emotional power. And that's rare. And rare is attractive. You're not moved by insecurity, you move by logic. When a woman realizes she can't easily manipulate your attention, she starts seeing you differently. Your selective attention becomes the prize. And here's the twist, she'll test you even more. These are classic female tests, and if you panic, she sees weakness. But if you respond with strategic coldness, pauses, steady presence, something shifts in her. You become the contrast. And contrast attracts. This is the moment when a man must embrace alpha communication. Firm, direct, but non-reactive. Communication that doesn't over-explain or seek approval. A simple, "I understand," paired with calm eye contact, disarms more than a whole speech. Remember, women don't fall in love with logic. They fall for the man who keeps them emotionally intrigued. That's built with dominant presence, not desperation. A powerful key here is being mysterious, not needy. Predictability kills desire. Don't reveal everything. Don't always be available. Don't try to fix her feelings. Seduction lives in uncertainty. When she sees you're not begging for attention, but living your life with focus and elegance, something deep lights up inside her. Unconscious attraction. You become unforgettable. This is a silent female weakness that, once understood, completely changes how a man carries himself. Most are still chasing acceptance, while high-value men simply hold position. And it's that grounded posture that leads us to the next weakness, one hidden behind the independence they love to showcase. Weakness number 2, the illusion of emotional independence. On the outside, many women say they don't need anyone. Strong, self-sufficient, empowered. But on the inside, silently, there's an emotional craving not easily seen. The desire to find a man with true leadership energy. Not a harsh controller, but a calm leader. A man who doesn't crumble under emotional pressure. This weakness lives in the dissonance between the image of strength and the unconscious longing for emotional direction. What most men miss is that by treating her like she truly needs nothing, he becomes unnecessary. That's the trap. She may act independent, but she still responds to a seduction psychology built on emotion, story, and subtle hierarchy. She tests to see if you're a man of non-negotiable boundaries. If you fold easily, she loses interest. If you stand firm with respect, She watches you with admiration. A real-life example. When a woman challenges you emotionally with "I don't need you," the average man tries to prove his worth. The Stoic man simply smiles and says, "That's fine. I don't need to be chosen. I just stay on my path." That answer isn't arrogance, it's masculine emotional strength. And that strength can't be faked. It's built in silence, self-awareness, and the daily discipline of not reacting. The man who knows this takes control of the relationship narrative. He doesn't try to change her mind, he just holds his line of integrity. He's the man she wants to follow, even if she won't admit it. His dominant presence reshapes the dynamic. When she says she's strong, he agrees, but isn't intimidated. He doesn't try to be bigger, he just shows he knows who he is. And that melts her emotional armor without saying a word. There's a real scarcity in the modern world, authentic men. Men who don't need to prove themselves. Men who don't compete emotionally, but simply live by their own standards. That awakens something primal in her. And that's where reading female behavior becomes crucial. What she says isn't always what she feels. The man who listens more than he speaks sees far more than the others. This illusion of independence is a house of mirrors. She pretends she doesn't need anyone. He pretends he doesn't care. And in the middle, no one connects. But the Stoic man doesn't enter that theater. He leads with lightness, seduces with depth, and reaches the emotional vulnerability she hides at all costs. Weakness number 3, the hidden fear of not being enough. Behind the high heels, flawless makeup, and carefully curated social media feed, many women carry a quiet fear, not being enough. It's rarely spoken out loud, but it shows up, in comparisons with other women, in beauty anxiety, in the need to be recognized. This insecurity activates an emotional weakness that men with masculine self-mastery must learn to read, not with pity, but with emotional intelligence. The mistake most men make is trying to save women from that fear with constant compliments or non-stop attention. But that, unknowingly, reinforces her belief that she needs outside validation to feel worthy. The man who practices Stoic seduction offers presence, not praise. He watches, understands, and leads naturally. His selective attention is worth more than 1,000 sweet words. He validates what's authentic and ignores the charm rooted in insecurity. When a woman feels like she has to fight for attention, the emotional game becomes unbalanced. A man who isn't easily impressed but sees the real her becomes rare. That's where perceived value comes in. You're not just any man. She doesn't need to prove herself, but she quickly notices there's no room for superficiality with you. That sparks a deep respect, and respect always comes before attraction. That fear of not being enough makes her act reactively. Jealousy, drama, pulling away, those are predictable female reactions when the ego feels threatened. The man who understands this doesn't enter the emotional storm. He responds with strategic coldness, not from indifference, but wisdom. He doesn't fix, he positions. His alpha communication is calm, clear, and never hostile. That's why it's essential to realize your leadership energy isn't about controlling her, but controlling yourself when she's emotional. She'll test, she'll provoke, but if you stay centered, steady, and direct, something changes in her. She relaxes, because she's found a man who doesn't flinch. Your masculine emotional strength teaches her, without a word, that not every emotion demands a reaction. This fear of inadequacy is a product of society, digital comparison, and internal frustration. But the Stoic man, who values silence and coherence, becomes a mirror of security. And when she feels that, a new fragility appears, one hidden behind the control she clings to at all costs. Weakness number 4, the unconscious desire to be psychologically led. As controversial as it may sound, there's a female weakness most men ignore. The unconscious desire to be led psychologically by a strong masculine presence. This isn't forced dominance or control. It's a mental magnetism that commands without raising a voice. When a man has narrative control, he creates space for her to relax, without needing to be in charge. That surrender doesn't come from sweet words. It comes from dominant presence. The way he speaks, the way he decides, the way he stays unmoved in chaos. She tests to see if he can hold his frame. And ironically, when he holds it without disrespect, she feels safest. That subtle leadership is an art, and men who master it use silence as their sword, not volume. When a man shows up mysterious, not needy, he triggers primal curiosity in her. Why doesn't he try to please me? Why doesn't he react to my games? That uncertainty creates unconscious attraction. Suddenly, she finds herself caught, not by his looks, but by the depth she senses and can't explain. And we humans crave what we can't control. She might try to flip the script, searching for emotional weak points. But the man with self-mastery doesn't explain himself. He leads with consistency. Example, she tries to spark jealousy. He calmly looks at her and says, "I don't play those games." Simple. Direct. Silent emotional power. He doesn't need to control anyone, because he already controls himself. And that hits deeper than anything else. This level of psychological leadership only works when he's centered in himself, not in her. He has habits, a mission, a routine. He doesn't orbit around women, he orbits around principles. That independence, combined with non-negotiable boundaries, creates a magnetic field that's felt, not explained. And that's when she realizes, this isn't just another man. This is the rare kind that leads without invading, and attracts without begging. But that psychological surrender vanishes if he falters. If she senses he needs her approval, the whole dynamic collapses. True seduction is in the contrast between her desire for control and the presence of someone who won't submit. And in that emotional tension lives an even deeper weakness, born from the constant waves of unstable emotion. Weakness number 5, emotional fluctuation as a form of control. Few men realize this, but one of the most strategic female weaknesses is the unconscious use of emotional swings. She shifts moods, distances herself, then returns, not out of cruelty, but as a way to test emotional stability. It's a defense mechanism, and at the same time, a subtle form of control. The man who doesn't understand this ends up caught in a cycle of reaction, losing his center and his leadership energy. This emotional game works like radar. She's not looking for a fixer, but for a stable witness. The man who reacts with desperation, justifications, or drama only proves that he lacks masculine emotional strength. But the man who recognizes the pattern and remains calm, even when she erupts or goes cold, shows something rare, silent emotional power. And that can't be learned with pickup lines. It's forged in the fire of daily discipline. A direct example, she texts you sweet things one day and seems cold the next. The average guy panics. The Stoic man observes but doesn't react. He stays on schedule, sticks to his rhythm, and remains calm. When she resurfaces emotionally, he's still there, but not anxious. That's alpha communication. He doesn't explain, doesn't chase, and never lowers himself. Through actions alone, he shows that his emotional axis doesn't revolve around hers. These fluctuations are tests to see if you truly are a man of non-negotiable boundaries. She needs to know, will you bend? Lose yourself? Change to avoid losing her? If you adapt too much, she loses respect. But if you hold your standards firmly, even in her instability, you become the anchor. And to an emotionally volatile woman, being the anchor is rare and irreplaceable. There's wisdom in not trying to fix female mood swings. The man who practices selective attention knows when to lean in and when to step back. He understands that every storm can be an invitation to deepen his presence, not his reactivity. This refined reading of what she's really saying, between the lines, is what separates the common man from the emotional strategist. But to hold that posture, a man must have inner structure. He needs to be fed from within. He needs his own life, hobbies, discipline, purpose. Without that, he'll get sucked into her chaos. And once trapped in her emotional game, he loses her respect. And when respect fades, another weakness activates. One masked as charm but rooted in an emptiness most never see. Weakness number 6, inner emptiness masked by charm. There's a rarely spoken female weakness that defines much of modern behavior. Charm as a mask for inner emptiness. She appears confident, seductive, fun. But behind the social performance and emotional filters, there's often a void. Even she may not recognize it. The danger? Most men fall for the act, and fail to realize that what fuels it is a deep craving for hidden validation. This type of woman knows how to present herself. She's got the lines, the looks, the well-timed provocations. But if you're a man with self-mastery, you'll notice all of that loses its power the moment you're not impressed. Her charm depends on your reaction. If you get dazzled, she takes control. But if you respond with calm presence and natural self-assurance, never beneath, never above, you break the spell. The stage crumbles. The man who sees this develops a powerful filter. He doesn't engage based on looks, fleeting energy, or seductive manipulation. He looks deeper. He masters selective attention. He asks himself, does this woman have inner substance, or is she just good at the game? And when he realizes it's mostly surface, he doesn't walk away with bitterness, but with intelligence. He knows Stoic seduction is also knowing when not to invest. A practical sign: if a woman constantly needs to be surrounded by people, always posting, always needing attention, watch out. There might be an emptiness she's masking. And your job isn't to fill that void. It's to stay whole. Most men try to fill it and get lost in the process. But a man who already has high perceived value knows his presence is a bonus, not a rescue mission. That's emotional strategic coldness in action. These women, when they meet a man who doesn't fold under charm, feel challenged. And that challenge sparks something unexpected, a desire to grow. When you don't give her what she wants, but offer what she needs, structure, depth, clarity, you become a mirror. A mirror that doesn't flatter, but reflects. One that unsettles, but attracts. Your dominant presence creates discomfort that forces growth. And that changes her. But even the most sophisticated women can hide the emptiness behind elegance. And when they see that not even charm can control you, the final weakness emerges. One that touches their most hidden wound. Loneliness disguised as freedom. Weakness number 7. Loneliness disguised as freedom. Today, many women wear the banner of freedom with pride. Independence, detachment, autonomy. And yes, there's real value in that. But what few people realize is that beneath that modern pride often hides a quiet weakness, unresolved loneliness. Deep down, every human craves real connection. And when she doesn't find it, she rationalizes its absence as choice. The issue? That emotional armor, when misunderstood, ends up pushing away the very thing she desires most, a man with dominant presence. The woman who says, "I don't need anyone," is often the same one who secretly hopes to be chosen. Wisely, not desperately. The man who understands this doesn't argue with her narrative. He just lives rooted in himself. His leadership energy doesn't try to convince, it simply exists. And that calm, magnetic presence exposes something she tries to hide: the pain of not being able to emotionally surrender without losing control. What the Stoic man must understand is this: her loneliness isn't healed by insistence. You don't break her armor with promises. You reveal your wholeness. And when she senses that your presence is not a cage but a space for expansion, she lowers her defenses. But that only happens if you uphold your non-negotiable boundaries, never becoming the man she wants, but remaining the man you were born to be. A clear example: she says she enjoys being alone. Respect that. Don't chase. Just continue being. Stay silent, stay consistent, and let your natural brilliance speak. Your silent emotional power will say more than any argument. And if she returns, let it be by choice, not pressure. Unconscious attraction is born from perceived freedom. Respect is born when she realizes your emotional survival doesn't depend on her affection. That disguised loneliness often drives exaggerated independence, and the man who tries to storm that territory gets burned. But the man with alpha communication, the one who reads the unspoken, builds bridges without asking for permission. He listens more than he speaks. He observes more than he reacts. He feels the right moment. And that's why he's unforgettable. Because he was the calm she never had in a world full of noise. And when she finally feels that stillness, something inside her shifts. The shield drops. The tension fades. And the truth appears. Even the strongest woman secretly longs to rest in the steadiness of an unshakable man. And it's within that surrender, quiet, deep, and rare, that true attraction is born. But only for those who have conquered their ego and become masters of themselves. Did you catch what just happened here? This wasn't just about female weaknesses. It was about your opportunity to reclaim control of your mind, your energy, and your posture as a man. Knowing these truths gives you an edge, but only if you act on them. Now that you see behind the curtain of attraction, what will you do? Keep reacting like the masses, or start leading with wisdom, logic, and self-mastery? These 7 weaknesses are gateways, and men who see beyond the surface realize The real power isn't in controlling women, it's in mastering yourself. So tell me, are you ready to stop being led? Ready to become the kind of man who doesn't need to prove anything, because his presence says it all? I want to hear from you. Which of these female weaknesses have you seen in your relationships? Drop your answer in the comments. It won't just help you reflect, it might help other men wake up too. If you want to leave a power statement, write, "I lead with presence, not with words." If you made it this far, my respect. Truly, that alone puts you ahead of 90% of men. Now I humbly ask, like this video, share it with a brother who needs to wake up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. See you in the next one, and remember, silent power is always louder than insecure noise.